Yesterday, a report came out including analysis by a number of different economists about the likely impact of student loan debt cancellation. And they concluded that it would boost the economy in significant ways and help combat income inequality, which should not surprise anyone. Yes, let's take tens of millions of people and allow them to actually be a part of the economy and maybe purchase a home someday, actually get a car, rather than just signing massive checks that are a significant chunk of their entire income over to a tiny little bank that's not gonna do anything. That seems pretty obvious, and it really shouldn't be a shock to people because more and more candidates are now embracing some form of debt cancellation. We're joined actually now by one of those candidates, Jose Caballero, joining us once again, congressional candidate for the 53rd District in California. Jose, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. I love being on the show.
It's great to have you here. So look, they've concluded it would be helpful to the economy, it would be a big stimulus. Are you surprised by this?
No, not at all. I mean, people around, in the generation, our millennial generation, they can't buy homes, they can't start businesses, they can't have children because they just don't have the income, and they have these looming, debts over their head that is just completely crippling them from even moving forward and keeping them in their jobs. So it doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I'm surprised that it didn't come out sooner.
Well, so as of right now, there are two of the top 4 candidates in the Democratic primary are supporting some form of debt cancellation. You have Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. Their plans are a little bit different. Bernie's is sort of just in one fell swoop. Warren's has sort of tiers where the more you make, the less cancellation you get, so that it focuses its efforts on people who make less than $250,000 a year. I know that if you make it into Congress, you're gonna wanna be involved in these conversations. So from your point of view, based on your experience and research, what's the best path forward for doing cancellation?
The best path forward is just to eliminate it all across the board, because people that, lawyers, doctors, people who get higher education, professors, they have to go to school for a long, long time, and they shouldn't be punished for taking these professional careers. So we shouldn't have a cancellation cap, because what that cap does is it forces people to leave education sooner than they want to before they even want to, pursue a deeper education. So I think that we should have complete cancellation and then followed by college for all to make sure that we no longer have debts happening anymore. So that's what I would be fighting for.
So you are a veteran. We know that many veterans hold significant student loan debt. From your experience as a veteran, what do you think about the likely impact of debt cancellation? How would it affect that community in particular?
It would affect us in a very deep way. I actually have student loan debt myself because the post 9/11 GI Bill for education only spans 36 months of actual education time. So if you're coming out of the military and you go right into education, you do a 4-year degree and your money is spent. So then you have to go into graduate school, which is very, very expensive. So that's where my debt came from. Was I took a year of graduate school. I actually didn't do another year of graduate school because the debt was so high. I just didn't want to take on more. So that actually made a big impact in my life. There's also veterans that are going in the military with student loan debt as well, that are trying to get like special payment plans for them. They forgo their own bonuses to just go and just pay off their student loan debt. So I think that's a big issue too. If you have military veterans going into the military just to pay off their student loan debt, which otherwise they may not join the military, which also creates a negative, hostile environment within the military ranks itself.
100%, it creates really weird financial incentives to do something that should not be based on finances. Finally, right. I just want to say one thing that I say often when this comes up. I'm lucky enough that I have freed myself of my student loan debt. I did.
Lucky you.
Thank you. And it involved a decade of effectively that was my only financial priority. And I know that every time I tweet about student loan debt cancellation, probably on the tweets that we're gonna generate from this appearance, Jose, someone's gonna respond with, well, I paid off my student loan debt, why should other people have it canceled? And I will say that as a person who has already taken care of mine, the idea that I would stop other people from being freed of that burden just because it doesn't benefit me it's so bizarre. It's like a perverse alien way of thinking. People are suffering, they would be better off, the country would be better off. How am I gonna let my own financial situation, my own weird ex post facto greed stop those people from being helped? I can't think like that.
You know, it's almost like, hey, I worked for it, why can't you? Like I had to pay extra time and do it, so therefore everyone needs to suffer. Well, people don't realize if we continue this cycle of suffering that we have to go through as Americans, apparently, we are not going to advance our economy forward. It's a really, like you said, a very selfish way of thinking that is like, hey, if I suffer, you better suffer.
Exactly.
And that is not a good way to think at all.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.